I'm Han-Maurits Schapveld. I'm the Netherlands ambassador to Egypt, not only Cairo, but the whole of Egypt. And I started last year, September, so September 2020. I came in the middle of Corona, but here in Egypt with the different possibilities, I have been able to travel and I have been able to visit a lot of people, and I'm very happy that you are here today. In Holland this would not be possible because of Corona, but here we can have an interview.
Now?
Yeah. The bilateral relations between Netherlands and Egypt are very good. We had our Prime Minister and His Excellency President Al-Sisi met together in Glasgow when we had the COP26 in Glasgow. We have a lot of relations. We have relations on the political side, as I mentioned, with the Prime Minister. We have economic and trade relations. We have investments in Egypt. We also have a development program where in the development we especially focus on gender, on rights of women and girls, also their financial inclusion, and topics like early marriage, FGM, which still in Egypt is a big problem. And I am EU gender champion together with the EU ambassador, and we try together to help or to support the efforts which Egypt does itself already on women's rights, with some projects, a lot of advocacy and discussions with the National Council of Women, with Ministry of Social Solidarity and other ministries where gender plays a big role. At the political level, we've had the meeting, we've had a visit of our Minister of Migration who came here to talk about possibilities of collaboration. We just had political consultations, which means the Vice Minister for European Affairs was in Holland to discuss at the ministry in The Hague the whole scala of relations, from political and trade, a lot of investment relations. And also, of course, that we are going to work with Egypt for COP27 on the environment, on the climate, because that's one of the very important issues for Egypt, but also for the Netherlands. And we have been very active also. You have different sides of climate, and one of the sides is adaptation. You can't change much anymore, but you have to make sure that the country is ready for changes in climate. We had the Climate Adaptation Summit in Holland last year, or this year even. This year. And we will definitely also support Egypt in climate adaptation, which is one of the big topics Egypt will put forward in COP27. In the economic sector, our idea is to try, trade is one thing, export, import, but more important is for Dutch companies also to invest in Egypt, to settle here, to start their business, which will give a lot of employment and will make local production, which I think will have a lot of added value for Egypt. A number of companies have done that. We have Al-Ahram breweries, which is Heineken. We have Philips Medical, which has established here. We also have a number of companies like Koudijs, like Skretting, who are working here, producing here, and distributing. And of course, Egypt, with its I would say orientation on Africa, also gives the possibility for Dutch companies to establish in Egypt for the Egyptian market, but also for the African market. So that is a bit the strategy we are following. First trade, and then very quickly we try to go on to investments. We don't have that much companies specifically in the Suez Economic Zone. Our companies, a number of the companies have been here for a number of years, and are maybe closer to the market. The fish feed companies will be closer to the delta where a lot of the fish farms are. The breweries is here in Cairo because this is where the big market is. But we are looking definitely, I'm going to visit the Suez Economic Zone, I have to go soon, and also see what the possibilities are. Of course, the canal, we do a lot of Dutch dredging to make the second canal. We also just sold 2 big dredgers to the Suez Canal Authority for using themselves. And you know, the Netherlands, we like water. We have a delta just like Egypt. So it's a topic we often can exchange and collaborate on. Energy is a very important topic in Holland. We used to be very gas-based, but now we are going into renewable energies. We have a lot of wind and a lot of waves in the sea, so you can use different options. Of course, Egypt has wind and a lot of sun. So we are looking at the energy transition, which means looking at hydrogen, which Egypt is looking at as well, and especially also looking at electrical mobility. In the Netherlands, we have the best range of electric power stations for cars, for motorcycles. You can go through the whole of Holland, you'll have them everywhere. That's something we're looking now here in Egypt, maybe starting, for example, in the port of Alexandria, which is a contained area, and then slowly moving into bigger places. But it's something companies have to do it, so it's not the Netherlands government putting a lot of money in, but helping companies to do the real work.
Yes, sir.
Now, yeah, the Netherlands has been collaborating with Egypt for 40 years on water, on irrigation, on the Nile, on looking at possibilities of other sources of water. And we are still working very actively with the Ministry of Water on that. We are also a country at the end of a big river. We have the Rhine. And if there's a problem in France, then we get the results. Same like Egypt being at the end of the Nile. Of course, we are not involved directly in the discussions on the GERD, but we have always said we are ready to collaborate with Egypt in looking what would be reasonable discussions. We also spoke to Ethiopia and to Sudan because we also have programs there. And now we are trying to look also more on the research side, on the professors, on students from different countries to see how they can work together towards the future when we really have the GERD which is operating. Now, Holland is a small country compared to Egypt and Ethiopia. We are big on water, but we are small on country. So we never really were going to have a mediation role. What we did offer from the beginning was to do a lot of the technical work with the water institutes in Ethiopia, in Sudan, and here in Egypt, to work together on what is actually the problem. We know for Egypt the Nile is essential, completely essential, but water is also necessary for Sudan. Electricity is necessary for Ethiopia. So there are a lot of technical aspects, and if we can agree on the technical aspects, then a lot of the legal discussion becomes a lot easier. But we offered to do that, but it didn't work. We do not have Dutch schools here, but what we do have are a lot of Egyptian students going to Holland. We have about 400 Egyptians studying every year in different universities in Holland. But that's often because they want to go themselves. But we also have a lot of fellowships, so that we give money for study for Egyptians from companies, from government, for more targeted courses in the Netherlands on a lot of topics, on management, on government, on water, of course, on agriculture, on different subjects. So we do a lot of cooperation in higher education and in vocational training, but in a different way from some other countries. Well, at least tourism is starting again, alhamdulillah. So we are slowly going again. There are flights between Cairo and Amsterdam, KLM and Egypt Air, and we are starting now again, or already have started with flights to Hurghada. And we will definitely start also on Sharm el-Sheikh very soon. Corona is a problem for everybody, and of course it hits very hard in Egypt. And we are really telling people, please come. There is Corona in Egypt, but it works in a different way. And so tourism is coming back. We had, before Corona, 300,000 Dutch tourists every year. We're not there yet, but it's increasing. So it's a bit two sides. One is we have a Dutch-Flemish institute here, which is especially on Islamic studies, but also on archaeology, Egyptology. So that's one side of culture which is being organized. The other are a number of cultural projects, which are especially also two sides. One is preservation. So in certain Egyptian archaeological sites, or let's say pharaonic sites, where we worked with the Ministry of Tourism to make the whole experience for people visiting it more interesting and more fun. Also taking account of children who are participating. Often in countries there's a lot of text, but you never read it. But if you can make it more accessible, more pictures, make a story out of it, which is something Dutch museums are doing a lot. So that is some knowledge we have also cooperated with the Ministry of Tourism. And we are looking at theater, dance, things like that, which give people also the possibility to express certain things and for other people to receive it. Now that was one of the basic points when my Minister of Migration came to visit Egypt. Egypt is doing a lot of effort in limiting illegal migration, and that is something we recognize. That is also the reason why in Egypt we finance a number of programs for migrants, for refugees, and also for people returning from the Netherlands. And we are going to go on. We had a declaration of intent between Foreign Affairs here and my Minister of Migration to look towards the future, where we are going to see how we can go a step further and educate people who might want to migrate, to convince them not to do it illegally, but to get the skills necessary to be able to do it legally. And we are still looking at how to implement it. We can put up a big building, but that's not going to solve the problem. We really want to see what is needed and what can we do on that. The report is a report we make every 2-3 years of in every country in the world where we have illegal migrants in Holland. It's a report which is being used by judges to decide whether a person can get a refugee status or asylum status, or has to return to the country. So it's a report on conditions in the country which might be a reason for somebody to leave, but it's not always a reason for them to stay in the Netherlands. So it's a report within the Dutch government, used by the Minister of Migration and the justice system to decide whether somebody can stay or not. So it's not a report about the whole of Egypt. That's something I do to the ministry for my year plan, and I talk about economic successes, I talk about a lot of infrastructure constructions, I talk about new capital city, about the farms which are being established, solar energy, things like that. But those topics are not important for a decision on asylum. So that's why it's part of the assessment of the country.
Netherlands and Egypt?
I'm convinced it won't. It will not affect the relations. As you say, there have been a lot of discussions, and a lot of the things which are in the report have already been discussed with Minister Shukri, and are discussed also with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs here. And I think the relations are strong enough so that the Egyptian government understands what is the reason for the report, and you don't have to agree with everything which is in it, but at least it's a report which is going to be used for this specific process and for nothing else. Because you did not ask me what this orange hand is for. Huh?
I don't see it.
You don't see it. And that is very important. It is the orange color for the 16 days of activism to end violence against women. So we are, as Egypt also, together with the National Council of Women, we are doing a lot of advocacy on violence against women. And orange has been decided to be the color internationally. So next year I'm going to put the whole embassy in the orange color. This year it was the Museum of Civilizations had an orange color. Ogna Palace? Opna Palace. Kuba Palace. Kuba Palace. Kuba Palace was also put in orange. And if you check our Facebook page, then you will see the campaign 21 for 21, where it's important that Egyptian women show what they have done and can be role models for girls and for adolescents and for women.
Yes.
Yeah, what is near future with Corona, I don't know, but we will definitely have official visits for COP27. So we will have official visits in 2022, and I expect one or two earlier, already during the year, to prepare for COP27, and maybe also to look at a trade mission which we want to organize to Egypt from Dutch companies.